have a special meeting. I call this special meeting to order. If you call 337-291-8428 prior to the reading of item, you will be contacted to speak during the public comment portion of the agenda item for which you sign up to speak. Introductory item. This is a public hearing, and speaker forms are available for anyone wishing to address the council. The 5-minute rule does apply. Before moving to the ordinance, I will defer to legal to explain why there was a need to call a special meeting.
I think that was put on your agenda in error. We do that
Okay.
for emergency meetings. There's
Okay.
no need to explain a special meeting.
Okay, which is an error. Okay. Cindy, please read item number 2.
City Ordinance 70, 2020, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Council requiring that city-only revenues and allocations under the Department of Parks and Recreation be separated from parish-funded revenues and allocations for consideration of city-only budgets by the City Council only, and eliminating the use of the allocation schedule for this department.
Okay, I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Hebert. Second by Ms. Cook. Council discussion. Okay, Ms. Hebert.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. And I appreciate my fellow council members and administration for allowing us to introduce this special ordinance. We're now in an interesting time now that we have gone to a city council and a parish council. And last year, whenever we voted on as a city parish council to move forward as whether or not to fix the charter, the most important part to me about voting yes and supporting those efforts was about the budget and where are our tax dollars going and how to explain the budget to my constituents. Through my professional and personal life, I've managed many different types of budgets, sitting on nonprofit boards, managing those budgets. The city parish budget is a whole different animal. We can all speak to that. It's very difficult to understand and difficult to track. I'm now coming on my 5th year of working on this budget, and I'm looking at it this year in a completely different set of eyes, because now I represent the city of Lafayette, and it is my job to be a good steward of their tax dollars and protecting their tax dollars. We've seen here recently with the budget, different departments getting cut, who pays for what. And over the last few years, it's been my mission to help my constituents better understand the way that government works. And in this instance, in particular, is Parks and Rec, is that over the years, city dollars has been used to cover the shortfalls of parish funding in the parish parks. Additionally, next year's budget, as proposed, the parish will not be contributing any funding to operations of the parish parks and will only spend $40,000 in capital improvements or in capital outlay for parish parks. This does not include any maintenance or operations. When Nanette Cook and myself, Councilwoman Cook and myself, and Councilman Knockham were requesting a breakdown of costs from administration and from the CFO, it took them a while to get us that information. We did not get that until today. And that they were only able to give us fiscal year 17-18 breakdown of the 9 parish parks. This is, to me, something that we should be able to, again, I understand our budgets are very difficult to navigate and understand, but if that's something to me that we should be able to just get immediately. In light of the 4 parks closing in the city of Lafayette, it really got Councilwoman Cook and I thinking about where we recognize that this is a city millage paying for city parks, but we've got 9 parish parks out there that we're funding. Granted, with a little bit of help, $40,000 from the parish general fund that we know is already limited. So whenever Councilwoman Cook and I were talking over the last budget, we agreed that what we would like to see and why we introduced this tonight was to simply start the discussions of using city tax dollars in the city parks only. We should not be funding in any sort of way anything for the parish. I want my fellow council members to remind you all that we were voted to be good stewards of the city taxpayers' dollars. So I'm asking you guys, I know that we're going to have a lot of discussion here tonight. I'm asking for us to introduce this tonight. Let's move forward. Let's continue these conversations going. I know this is only one example of many, and the first of many conversations we're going to have about allocations and how exactly our city tax dollars are being spent. So again, I ask for your support for this ordinance. Thank you.
Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councilwoman. I could not have said it better. Everything right out the words of my mouth as well. I guess I'm just a little disappointed or maybe saddened that we actually have to bring an ordinance of this kind before our council members to ensure that city dollars are spent within the city limits of Lafayette. I was assuming, as we move forward with a city millage for Parks and Rec that is paid by the city members, that these tax dollars should go to city activities, city functions, in this case, city parks, city programs, but that money that we're putting in the millage is a city millage. And so, to me, that should be a given. That's where that money should go. But just to make sure that it is, this is why we're bringing this forward, so that we can clear that up, make it a little bit clearer so that everyone understands that as a city taxpayer paying that I want to know where my dollars are going, just like I'm sure you do. And I guess it was brought to light. For me, the tipping point for this was when we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the city of Lafayette puts in 90% of the budget for Parks and Rec. There's that small little portion that the parish has been putting in. But in this new budget, they're not putting that in. So this new budget moving forward, those numbers have been stripped from our budget. And so we are moving forward with a budget for Parks and Rec solely funded by the millage for the city of Lafayette, which you taxpayers are paying for. So the tipping point for me was when we had a meeting and we wanted to discuss moving forward with some of our city facilities on the city side, and we were not able to because the parish side didn't want to discuss it, so that killed that. And so that to me is not right. We should be able to, we put the money in that fund, we pay for our city parks, that discussion should be on the city side. So this is the reason we're putting this forward. There's a lot of work maybe that has to be done with it. There's some amendments maybe we need to put with it. We need to add some additions to it. I totally understand that. And legal has told us this already, and I respect their opinion. I want to start the conversation like Councilwoman Hebert does. We want to start this conversation so we are aware of where our dollars are being spent. Everyone, the parish should be concerned about that as well. Those parish dollars that they're putting into those parish coffers should be spent for parish things as well. So this is just a first couple of steps with our council split from our parish side and our city side, that we start to recognize where those funds are going and making sure that they're being spent on the proper things that you taxpayers are putting them in for. So again, I would also ask for support on this. We're just introducing it. Nothing will change tomorrow from this introduction other than lots of conversation to see if we can get to from this point A to point B. So again, I would ask your support as well on this too. Thank you so much. No.
Madam President, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilwoman Hebert, I agree that it's frustrating to request for information and not receiving it. I've been requesting information since January 6th on this issue too, allocation. I wanted to break down on activity, in particular parks and rec centers. And I agree with you, in 2020, we should be able to snap our fingers and be able to have that information relatively available pretty quickly. So we're working on that, but I'm glad our administration was able to give at least the information, and we'll continue to partner with you guys to get more information to you quicker. Just point of reference here, the Parish Council, as you know, announced today that they are going to have a special meeting to give $200,000 to the Parks and Recs Department. They have to vote on it Monday, so it's an effort that I fully support. It's going to help fund our rec centers in the city. It's going to help fund our Parks and Recreations Department. Look forward to that dialogue. I invite everyone to please come out there again on Monday to show your support. It's something we can all wrap our arms around. But there are no rec centers in the parish, as everyone knows. All the rec centers are in the city, so I thought that was a good olive branch from the parish as you see the two councils working together. You heard Chairman Nakam on the parish side saying that we're working with, and we've been working since January 6th to do this, entering IGAs with the municipalities. We feel like each municipality, just like the municipality of Lafayette, can better manage and provide services to their people locally. I feel like that's going to relieve a lot of what we know would relieve a lot of financial burden off of this department, this consolidated department. And we're also working with IGAs on the two parks in the unincorporated areas. Southwest, or SWA, excuse me, comes to mind. Now, both councilwomen, I think, highlighted an issue that we're going to face, not only today, but during budget. And this was something that the voters voted on, voted on a new charter that was supposed to fix the problem, fix the charter. And here we are. Now, I had some questions, because I understand the intent, and I don't think anybody can question your intent behind this, but I had questions legally if we could do this. So I think it would benefit if we called, I know we have one of our assistant city parish attorneys in the audience that I believe worked on the charter, so I know he's a lot more educated than I am on it. We have Mr. Escott too, and of course our city parish attorney. So Mr. Chair, with your permission, I believe it would benefit everyone to make sure that you guys know if it's legal or not, what you're voting on.
Well, I'll let the rest of the council members have a discussion about this. Mr. Naki, continue. You don't mind.
I definitely see the problem, and this is a 40-year-old plus problem. This is nothing new. And it's disheartening to know that we just can't seem to come together as a parish to realize that we all benefit from our parks. And this is not only from the city side, but also from the parish side. I mean, I, as a younger man, like to say young, but I'm not there anymore, use those parish parks quite often. Youngsville, Milton, Giudice, softball games, picnicking, festivals. So it's not unusual for city residents to use parish parks, and it's definitely not unusual for parish residents to use city parks and rec centers. So surely there can be a mutual agreement to where we can work on this to work toward an end. And I think Mayor President Gilry is trying to negotiate some things to where these local municipalities will take more responsibility for parks within their city limits. Already I know a lot of these parks have a lot of volunteers that cut grass, build buildings, maintain buildings, run concessions. Parents are very involved in those areas. So we can't say that they have turned our backs on the city completely. I mean, that's not a proper comment to make. And the parish in the past, if I'm not mistaken, I'd like to ask that question, has reimbursed the city for some expenses over and above what is normal in these parks. If I'm not mistaken, they have given us money back to help pay for the maintenance and operation of these parks. So I grant it may not be equitable from what we see, but surely there can be a solution worked toward the end and very amiable in the amount of, in the ways of doing this. But one thing I'm curious about, and I echo Mayor President Gilry's concerns, is number one, was this ordinance, did it go through legal, and is it even legal to do this? Would it in any way violate our present charter? And are we basically overriding the charter which the people voted for? Mr. Escott, I'm curious as to the answer to that.
And you want to go ahead.
The answer is it did not go through legal, as far as I know. I was not provided an opportunity to review the ordinance prior to its publication. As to the second question of whether or not it violates the charter, in my opinion, it violates at least 2, perhaps 3 provisions in the current charter. And because of the time constraints of seeing the ordinance last night and being here today, I haven't issued a detailed opinion, but if this ordinance is introduced, my intent is to prepare a more detailed analysis of the basis for that legal opinion. But generally speaking, the provisions called into question is 211E under the charter, Section 504A of the charter, and possibly Section 417 of the charter.
In light of that, and we still aren't clear, and I thought this was rather hastily put together, I found out about this about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. There wasn't a whole lot of consultation. I think this introductory ordinance actually should be tabled till we get some clarity onto the legality of what's moving forward here. Budget process goes until the end of October, when and actually in September when we vote on it, but it doesn't take place until the end of October with the new budget in November. I think we have time to move on this without moving it forward tonight, hastily and without thought, and they're looking at solutions already, which we may not even need this. I mean, if the parish is willing to chip in $200,000 and Mayor President Gilbert is in negotiations to work out solutions, this may not be a necessary ordinance. Thank you.
Ms. Cook.
Thank you very much. I respect what you're saying, Andy, and I appreciate your thoughts on this. I guess when there was the comment of there's not much thought put into this, we have been thinking about this probably for the last 4 years. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like it's something new. So we have been thinking about how to define where the city dollars are going and to ensure they're going in the right place. And while I respect legal's opinion that there might be a couple of things that we need to look at, let's look at them. But I would ask that we not table this, because I would like to have the conversation about this and figure out how we can move forward. If it's going to take longer than 2 weeks to move forward, and or we need to do a few other things to make it happen, then there's the deferring opportunity in 2 weeks. But I want to put this out there because I feel like it's a very important topic and subject that we all need to be thinking about if we live in the city of Lafayette, where our dollars are going. And we want to be able to have control of our dollars in the city and what we're going to do with them. So I just would like to keep this conversation going. So please, I'm asking that we don't table it, that we pass it tonight, and then we can have that conversation. And if it looks like something needs to happen 2 weeks from now that cannot, we can have that conversation again and defer it and keep working on it. But I would love to keep working on it so that maybe by budget time, we can make that final adjustment that needs to be made at that point. So again, I would ask that we not table this. Thank you very much.
Okay, excuse me a second, Mr. Nakan. I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, we had unbelievable people here to speak, and they were not allowed to speak. And now we have quite a few people here tonight to speak. I don't want to table this. I want to hear from the people after we get through discussing amongst the council members. Again, my take on this is that we decided to split the charter. Some of the people supported. I was one that did not support it, because I had a feeling we would run into problems like this. Moving forward, we will continue having some issues. We will continue. And even though I didn't support it, but I'm willing to make it work as much as I can, make it work. But when it comes to parks and recreation, as far as city constituents, city members, city colleagues, the community of the city, we paying more than our fair share for recreation and parks for the parish. We are paying more. Recreation and parks is not for profit. It's for the community. It's for the community. Everyone in here is paying taxes for park and recreation, for the government. Some people say government should run like a business. Very difficult to run government like a business. And this is a prime example why it is hard to run government like a business. We want no ifs and doubts about it, and I believe everyone here wants what? The rec centers to remain open. That's what we all want. So take a position as deferring. Legal is giving us, listen to this, legal is giving us an opinion. That's all it is, an opinion. They might have some attorneys in here have an opinion. Paralegals might have an opinion. It's an opinion. So if it's illegal, if it wasn't ran through by the legal, so be it. It's an ordinance that two ladies put together to support rec centers being open. By the time it comes to an ordinance, It's 2 weeks. He has time enough to say, hey, it's invalid. So why stop it? Why stop something for an opinion? That's all it is. So I'm asking the rest of the colleagues on this council here to support it. Don't defer it. People need to speak on this. I want to give them the opportunity to speak that they did not have last time. Mr. Nake.
I understand your sentiments, and I agree with everything you're saying, but we don't know if this is legal. So all our efforts could be futile right now, and there is discussion going on. How can you say there isn't discussion when there is? So to sit there and move forward an ordinance that may not be even worth its weight in the paper it's written in could be a very futile effort. Mr. Escott himself said he didn't have time to review it properly. So he gave an opinion because he hadn't had time to review it properly. Let him get his opinion written. Let him review it and move it forward. Table it for 2 weeks. Let this defer for 2 weeks and then see what happens then. Maybe he can tweak it, make it better. But at this point, I don't know that it's proper to bring it forward. I think it was rather hastily done.
Well, excuse me, but when I say people didn't get a chance to speak, not us. We will always speak. I'm talking about the people in the audience. So, Ms. Lazar?
Back to this again, huh? I wonder if we're violating the charter by spending city funds outside of the city. Just kind of curious. I'd like a legal opinion on that. What happened last week was simply appalling. There's no other way to put it. Parish is contributing, by my estimation, somewhere in the neighborhood of 4%. 10%. Okay, 10%. 10% of the 10% of the total revenue for operation of parks and facilities, and have a 50% vote. Something's wrong with that. Something's wrong with that, and it needs to be corrected, and it appears as though this is the only way to correct it. And I guess there'll always be legal questions about anything we do. But this, to me, is the most logical avenue to correct that problem and make sure that it doesn't happen again. And I want to personally apologize to everybody that was here last week that did not get the opportunity to speak. I'm in favor of moving forward with the ordinance. We will have 2 weeks to clean it up if we have to, in whatever ways we have to. But to push this back, and we're taking up the Parks and Recreation budget on Thursday. So I'm prepared and ready to move forward with introduction. We still have time to, make whatever corrections we have to make to it, if we have to make any. I haven't thoroughly reviewed it either from a legal standpoint, and I may very well be wrong, but I'm confident that it is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Hebert?
Thank you, Chairman. Full transparency, Nanette and I put this together because of the meeting Thursday, because we wanted to start this discussion, because I don't want this to be we never talked about this is a shock. So Councilwoman Cook called all 3 fellow councilmen yesterday afternoon. So I just want that to be known, that no one was left out of any conversations, no one found out last, we're not hiding anything. It was simply, we called everyone at the same exact time, so no one is being left out of any conversations. And I welcome any and all discussions from people in or outside of my district, the administration, my fellow council members, you all have my cell phone number. Call me anytime to discuss this. Because in legal, we're going to have many conversations about this. And again, you know, there's a couple of remarks about we fixed the charter. The charter was never going to be fixed in 8 months, especially with a global pandemic taking place. This is going to take time to fix what has been taking place over the last 20 years with no edits. So it's going to take some time to fix the charter. But this is an incredibly important conversation that we need to be having about how our tax dollars are being spent and information being given, like the mayor said. And I've got to give major props to the CAO, Sidra, for she's been having discussions with the neighboring parishes about whether or not they want to take over parks. And so far as our last discussion, and I don't know if anything's changed, but only 3 out of the 9 local parishes can either afford them or want them. So we still have some work to, right? It was the 3 of the 9. Now, it's been a couple of weeks since you and I spoke, so maybe that changed. So the parish is still having to fund 6 or so parks with $40,000 of only capital money in this year's budget. That's not going to pay for operation and maintenance. So that is my biggest concern, again, is however we need to word it, the biggest focus for Nanette and I, because we're not attorneys, we're not PE teacher and sales, business development, but we care about our constituents' tax dollars and our city residents. Now, we need to work on the wording, that's fine, and that's okay, but we're having those conversations. So again, I'm asking my fellow council members to please support our efforts in this ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I think there's some good points made. This is intro. It's introduction. So, you know, I don't think there's any harm with getting past introduction. You know, you can work with legal. Maybe there is something. I think everyone knows the intent behind what you're saying. You make some good points, too, about Thursday. That's the budget day. I mean, it may be moot after that point. I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. So, hey, look, I don't think additional dialogue would hurt. I don't think additional dialogue with legal would hurt at all. So, you know, it's introduction. You know, pass it through introduction and let's talk about it. Okay. But the reason why I buzzed in, Mr. Chair, is just remember, when we talk about the charter, this is the equivalent to our Constitution here locally. It's the supreme law of the parish, supreme law of the city of Lafayette, unincorporated Lafayette, and to the extent where we have indirect jurisdiction in our municipalities. We have to take this serious. Look, we don't have to talk about who supported, who didn't support the fix or whatnot, but it was passed through relatively quickly. And maybe if we would have taken our time just a little bit, these issues that are very valid could have been ironed out. All are facts. It's a city millage going towards paying for property outside the city. That is a valid reason to have concern. So I buzzed in purely because there's going to be conversations. There's always going to be conversations about fixing the charter or doing this. I encourage everyone, challenge your elected officials to take our time to get it right. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, Ms. V, public comments, please.
Okay, citizens who did not wish to speak first, they called in 8 in support, 1 in opposition to the ordinance. Signed in today, 5 in support of the ordinance. We do have speakers signed in, 11 speakers, the first of which is Ricky Horty. And please alternate podiums, because they'll clean up once you walk.
So we have 2 on each end and 1 in the middle if you want to sit down and speak.
I can proceed.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, President, members of this august body. We are all aware, education, recreation, it goes hand in hand. It's a component. If we do not support education and recreation, we have a place called juvenile detention. That's where they're going to end up at. I rise in support of City Ordinance 0-70-2020. As I could appreciate the ordinance, why aren't we following the home rule charter that was voted on by the people, which read as follows. Section 504, and I'm going to read it. July 28, Morning Advocate, Ms. Cook, who served on the previous city council, said normally that the mayor president would come to the council with such a mid-year change in the budget. The way the mayor handled this closure without council discussion and before the new fiscal year began was not proper. So with that ordinance being in place, this is the Constitution. Section 504 reads, amendment to operating budget. Amendments to the operating budget such as supplemental appropriation, emergency appropriation, reduction of appropriation, and transfer of appropriation shall be adopted by the favorable vote of the majority of the authorized membership of each of the city council and the parish council. Key word, I'm not an attorney, but it don't take me 90 minutes to watch 60 minutes. Except that an amendment to the operating budget for a line item of operating budget or component unit of the city parish government that is funded solely by the city of Lafayette shall be submitted solely to the city council for adoption. That's clear. That is clear. And then it goes on to say, an amendment to the operating budget for line items of the operating budget or the component unit of the city parish government that is funded solely by the parish of Lafayette shall be submitted solely to the parish council for adoption. Section 5. Section D, reduction of appropriation. If at any time during the fiscal year it appears to the mayor president that the funding available will be insufficient to meet the amount appropriated, the mayor president shall report to the appropriating council, which Ms. Cooks alluded to in August in the July 28 Morning Advocate. In accordance with subsection A of this section without delay indicating the estimated amount of the deficit and remedial action and recommendation as to any other steps to be taken, the appropriated council in accordance with subsection 8 of this section shall then take such further action as deemed necessary to prevent a deficit. Okay? Moving on to the attorney. Who's the assistant city attorney for Lafayette? Mr. Paul S. Scott, who's the assistant city attorney for the parish?
Paul S. Scott.
Okay. Who is the city attorney for Lafayette, assistant city attorney for consolidated government?
Same
Paul. Isn't that a conflict of interest? Imagine me having a funeral home, my brother having a pharmaceutical, and the other one having a cemetery. Where you think we're going to keep the business going? Come on, y'all, just do right for children. That's all I'm an advocate. I was a former lifeguard over there. I was a swimming instructor. My brother was a director. I worked under Morris Anderson. I worked under Glenn Abel, all some fine people who was advocate of recreation and parks. Ernie Neighbor, who just passed. Mr. Paul Narcan also said, despite the dedicating tax paid only by the city property owners, Assistant City Parish Attorney, Mr. Paul Narcan, said Parish Council declined to second a motion, killed the ordinance because the Parks and Recreation is within the legislative authority of the parish and the city council. I get that, but the charter says that if you are going to fund it, Section 504, that's the Bible. The people voted on that. Let's comply with it. I could appreciate the ordinance, but we just need to comply with the Constitution and follow it to the letter of the law. I'm not a lawyer, but my daddy always did say, it's a fool that think he knows everything. It's a wise man that think he knows everything. It's a fool like myself know where to go and find everything. It's right there. Read it. You could read. I wish y'all well in y'all endeavor. I know y'all have some tough cuts to make, hard decisions, but at the end of the day, it's about education recreation, or incarceration.
Okay, your time, sir, your time is up. But what is your name? What is your name?
Ricky Hardy.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your time. Y'all be well going forward and stay safe. Thank you.
Albert Johnson. To your right. And he will be followed by Abriana Rubin.
Thank you guys for having me here. Crime, infrastructure, jobs, problems that's going to be happening that we have already in the north side of town. JTPA is one of the programs I was quite fortunate to be a part of when I was 14 years old. That's where my love of construction and painting and remodeling happened in. That system, that program was gone. Back in the late 80s, they did away with it. Late 80s, early 90s, they did away with that. That kept me grounded, kept me out of trouble, and all these different things. When you start taking away from the community, like the rec centers and stuff like that, you take away history as far as what those centers do. You know, they had events back in the early 80s. I'm 47 now. Will be 47 coming up August 29th. But in those days in the 80s, we had activities. There were things to do. If we went on a field trip through the King Center, we had to pay a registration fee through the King Center. Those things can still be applied if you guys just do it. I can tell you 1, 2, or 3 of you guys not going to come to the north side of town and shop. There's no big conglomerate business out there to come and shop. Our tax dollars are now being forced into the south side of town, which our dollars in the north side of town is not circulating like it should be. See, if I go to Costco, I can go and eat at BJ's and then leave out of BJ's and then go to whatever store that might be around there. My dollar, and then someone will come back and get my same $100 I broke at Costco and so forth and so on. We don't have that there. I challenge Lafayette Parish and the city to just reinstate those things so this community can thrive together. Because right now there is a division in one community from the other, and we have to do better. We're not doing. I'm a carpenter. I create films. I do videography. It's all the same concept. Start with a strong foundation, and you build off of that. We need to build off our strong foundation, and our strong foundation is us. Is everybody else in here? And if we're not building off all of us, because we consider ourselves family and we have friends from this neighborhood and that neighborhood, we're dying. You know, we're dying. We're not, there's no money here. There's nothing. There's jobs. That's my biggest, I'm advocating for the jobs in my community. You know, I know you see the same faces here, and I haven't been coming here, but it's enough of it now, you know, and Brother Harvin, he's a great guy. He's telling the truth since he was in office. But we need to get these things back. I don't want to see my little nephews, my little brothers and little people, my workers, my employees' children locked up because they have nothing to do, you know, auto time, auto mind. You know, these things is what we need to work on. It's the infrastructure, the job, not just building a bridge over our neighborhood so the dollar doesn't stop in our community. We need to have that dollar stop in our community too. That way we can go there, we can feel comfortable, and you can feel comfortable coming on this side of town. You know, I know it's not everybody's first choice to stop, and I get it, but we're creating our own demise. We're making our own gateway ugly because we're taking the dollars out of it. I mean, shoot, everybody graduated from high school, I assume, in this room. Some of us have college experience. Some of us have bachelors, but it's like a fine line of smart and stupid. So are we going to keep on doing the dumb thing and just weaken our community if it's a Lafayette thing and Lafayette in the whole, parish and city? It's like, you know, racism against one another is stupid. You know, there's money, put the money there. You know, there's a King Center, it's halfway painted, man. You guys become the general contractor and sub the work out to us so we can feed our community. You know, just think about those things. And that's all I have.
Abriana Rubin, to the left-hand side.
Okay, Ms. Cook, Ms. Cook would like to say something.
I'm sorry, yeah, I just want to make sure that we understand the intent of this ordinance. It's unfortunately, this intent is not to open up the parks at this point. I wish we could snap our fingers and that would happen, but the intent of this ordinance is really just for us to clear the lines in terms of understanding where the dollars are going, where the city dollars are going, where the parish dollars are going. So, you know, that's the intent of this ordinance. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. We're not taking money from anywhere else and not putting it somewhere else. We're just trying to track it. We're trying to figure out where it's going. So that's all I wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Abriana Rubin, and she will be followed by Tara Laxey.
Okay. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Mr.
I just want to clarify, and I can't wait to hear Ms. Rubin speak. Just a show of hands, because this is going to tell me if my messaging, if my communication is adequate. Who in here still thinks the recreation centers are going to close? So everyone knows that I just want to make sure. So do we all know that the recreation centers will stay open?
Well, let me put it this way. When you say we'll stay open, we understand you're talking about may stay open until the end of your budget year, okay? And basically, the individuals that's here want to voice their opinion on. There are avenues that you need to follow also where you can save X amount of dollars, okay? I've been an executive director, I'm a retired executive director, and I refuse to look and say you can't make it work, okay? And that's all I'm saying. So, and as the councilwoman said, my points may be on what you're saying, because I came here 3 weeks ago and we could not speak. And all I can do is that I took notes then, and I can only read what I was suggesting then until now.
And I'll piggyback, Mr. Chair, with your permission. Thank you. And I don't know if I could say it as adequate and eloquently as you did, as far as there are ways. And that's what we're trying to explore right now. So just to clarify, because I don't want there to be any smoke and mirrors or anything like that, we have found a way, an alternate plan, to keep the rec centers open. The rec centers that we identified with the same operating hours through this budget, at the same operating hours as they were. And I know I was educated this week. We have 8 rec centers and 2 activity centers. One of the activity centers is kind of a first come, first serve reservation type situation. Our intent is to maintain that. Now, we had to work very hard to find the resources to do that, but this is a good alternate plan. Maybe if we continue with the plans that we have.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you,
So,
sir.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, the rec centers will stay open, and thank
Okay.
you for your time.
All right, continue.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for allowing me to address you guys this evening, the council. My name is Abriana Rubin, and I'm here on behalf of New Vision Leadership. And New Vision Leadership is an organization that gives youths the opportunity to grow through education, empowerment, and exposure. New Vision gives youth on the north side of town ways we can spend our time, such as field trips, job shadowing, and educational workshops, and many other activities that encourages us to be greater than what we are. Everything that New Vision does are all planned at one of the recreational centers that we're supposed to be closing or will be closing. Which is the Domain Center. As a matter of fact, every year since 2015, New Vision throws an event, which is called Hoop Dreams every year, and it's at the Domain Center. And Hoop Dreams is the biggest event that brings law enforcement and the youth in our community together. And if this ordinance means that the rec centers will continue to be open, then New Vision, the youth of New Vision is in support of this ordinance. And we are asking Mayor President Josh Giller and the council to consider separating city and parish funds in regards to our rec centers. Thank you and have a blessed evening.
And in case you don't know who that is Parish Council Member A.B. Rubin's daughter. And next speaker is Tara Laxey. Is she still here?
She's gone.
She's gone?
She's here? Oh, she's back, okay. Sorry.
If you could come to the speaker on the right, here, to your right.
Hello. So, I talk about get here on time, huh? So, hi. Oh, thank you. So, yes, my name is Tara Laxey. I am a member of Unity 7 here in Lafayette, Louisiana. I thank you both, Ms. Cook and Ms. Aber, for trying. I am not in support of closing our rec centers. I am not in support of 37 employees being fired, because it's also not 37 employees. We're talking about 37 families. We're talking about 37 families with children. We're talking about children who might face homelessness. And in Lafayette, we already have a very bad situation with homelessness. So it's not just those 37 positions, nor am I in support of privatizing our recreational centers. In the areas where these centers are being closed, are wanting to be closed, our children come from low-income, poverty-stricken homes. A lot of them can't afford a couple of dollars just to get into a facility. If you have ever been to a Unity 7 vigil, if you have ever been to a funeral where a young black man has been shot and murdered in the street, if you've ever heard the sound that his mother makes, either at the vigil or at the funeral, it's a very undescribable sound that comes from deep within her soul. You see that quite often on the north side of town. And the sound never gets easier. Our children, our at-risk youth, face obstacles every day in their life on the north side of town. These recreational centers mean life to a lot of them. That life to them means that hopefully their mother does not have to bury their child through gun violence because the streets caught him or her. My 16-year-old and I play a game called What If. She says a sentence, what if, and gives me an example, and then I'll follow through with another sentence, and we build up this big story. So I'm going to play that with you right now. What if that 13-year-old girl who's being molested at home has now finally worked up the courage to tell her mentor at that recreational center what's been going on? That recreational center's not there. So she can't or she won't feel comfortable with someone else trying to save her. What if that young boy needs that extra tutoring, but he can't get it because his recreational center is closed? But God has designed him to be the next doctor, to be able to treat one of you council members or mayor, parish president, as you get older with cancer. And he has the answers and the cure. What if lifting weights that one day at that recreational center saves that one child from being shot in the street? That recreational center's not there. What if the south side and the north side could actually get along and represent each other the right way? What if we did live biblically and love our neighbors as we love ourselves. What if, Mayor, Parish President, you could acknowledge that you were extremely racially insensitive when you made that video wanting to close our 4 recreational centers that affect low-income people on the north side of town? What if we could have true leadership and not just represent each of our districts, city, and parish? Can you imagine how great Lafayette Parish would actually be if we did things fairly, equally, and balanced? I wish y'all all a wonderful evening, and again, thank you for your time. Save a kid's life, keep our recs open.
Sarah Brown, on the left-hand side. Sarah Brown, oh, she's coming. Followed by Devon Norman.
Good evening. Hi. My name is Sarah Brown. This is my first time speaking for the council. I'm excited to be here. I want to tell you a little bit about me. I'm born and raised in Lafayette. After graduating from UL, I moved to Chicago, and I was there for about 10 years. And as often happens, Louisiana calls you back home. It's very mysterious. I moved back. At that time, post-Katrina, post the oil spill, there was like an arts resurgence and an energy happening in Lafayette that made me really excited to move back here. And since I've moved back, I've bought a home in the downtown area. I've started a business, a Silverbacks Improv Theater. I've become a public school educator. I have written 2 hit plays that's toured around the area about my cultural identity. And I guess my point in saying all these things is that, you know, I'm a city person, and I think that our priorities in the city seem to be different from our priorities in the parish. And so that's why I think that this is a good idea. You know, I was here last Thursday to speak. I was going to be speaker number 18, and I didn't get to speak. And that was really a deep blow. I just saw the, you know, the proposal from the parish councilman about keeping the centers open for a year. I mean, I'm sorry, to me it's just a little too late for that, because last week they really eroded my trust that they have my interests at heart. So I'd rather see this move forward with city council people taking my priorities, putting those first. You know, I commend the effort of the parish council with what they're trying to do, but 1 year, 1 fiscal year, that's not enough. What's going to happen 5 years from now when our arts and culture and recreation is totally eroded? And I can tell you, like, being a person that's in the artistic community here, every other conversation I have is about moving away from here. And that, it stinks, you know? And I've had those thoughts myself. But I want to be here because I want to be close to my niece and nephew. I want to be close to my parents. I want to keep building what I'm building. So these things truly matter to me. And I just want to spare a few brief words about what happened with the recreation centers. You know, I can accept that we might have a philosophical difference about the role of government and the way things should be budgeted. But I cannot accept the way that this went down without talking to the communities involved, without involving the Parks and Recreation Commission, without talking to the council, selecting 4 centers on the north side that serve a predominantly black community, and I don't feel that that has been sufficiently answered as far as why only those 4 centers were selected. So I cannot accept this on the issue of the recreation centers. But just coming back to this item, I'm in support. And I believe that through the ingenuity of these great minds that are assembled in this room, that we can come to an understanding and move it forward. And if that means delaying it a couple times to get the P's and Q's in order, that's fine. And I just wanted to end by saying I'm a proud graduate of the Academy of the Sacred Heart in Grand Coteau, which for those of you who may not know, it's an all-girls school. And for that reason, I just want to say, Councilwoman Hebert, Councilwoman Cook, I'm proud to be a woman today. Thank you.
Next speaker, Devon Norman. The mic to the right, to your right.
Can you excuse me, sir? Please, one of the council lady has something to say. Ms. Liz Hebert? Oh. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to remind everyone, thank you for the words about keeping our parks open, but let's remember that we're speaking on this budget item, which is specifically about consideration of keeping city money in city parks only, okay? So let's just, I know we may be upset about some things that happened in the past, and those are for other times, but the parks budget will be voted on Thursday. You're welcome to come back and talk about that, but tonight, we're only talking about this particular ordinance, so keep your speech geared towards back to this. But thank you all for being here.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your patience.
And she said that the parks budget will be voted on. It's a budget review. Yeah. So I don't want everybody to come thinking that decisions are going to be made on Thursday. It's a budget review for Parks and Recreation, along with several other departments. Devon Norman?
So respectfully, I think that everybody that is here that did speak, maybe they may have been specific about that issue, but I think that we all understand that we are sick and tired of taxation without representation. And so all in all, it plays into that. I would like to say thank you to Councilwoman Hebert and Councilwoman Cook for bringing this introductory ordinance to the table, because what it does is it gives us hope. When I was here when I was able to speak the last time that I was here, I spoke about the call to this time. And you two specifically, I noticed even through your mask, you were very engaged and very welcoming to the conversation. I'm not really sure of your political affiliations, I can only guess, but I'm encouraged and thankful for that. To the chairman, I think that you have the full support of the public, and that this is your committee, and this is your chair to chair this meeting, your position to chair this meeting. So I think that it is kind of disrespectful a little bit for the mayor president to make an assumption that because the room is mostly brown, I'm not going to say that was why he assumed it, but that's the way it looks to us, that you would consider that we don't know why we're here. I made it very clear that this is not just a moment, this is a movement. And so if you want to know why we're here, and sometimes we may not speak on the things that are on the line item that's necessarily being spoken about, we're tired of being shut up and shut down. So that's why we're here on today. I'm here to, again, call you all to that time that we're in. Elijah Cummings made a very good point when he basically asked the question, what will they say about us? What will they say about the time? You all will be looked at in history. History books will be written about what is going down in Lafayette on today. Trust me when I tell you that the people in this world, the God that I serve, will not allow this thing to go down the way that it is. So when we talk about the city of Lafayette paying for things that the parish are paying for parish parks, this is taxation without representation. This is something that black people have faced for all too long. 401 years we have been in this country facing that very same situation. And the north side of town has received the blunt end of it. And so today we come passionate and we come angered because we've been shut up, shut down far too long when it comes to how our money, how our funds, how we are represented in our government, and how the people who represent us stand up or stand down when it comes to what is going on in this city. And so again, I would charge each and every one of you, no matter what your political affiliation is, to think about this moment and to meet the moment and to meet the people. I encourage you to come on our side of town. I encourage you to understand and see, and you're an educator, I'm sure you've seen exactly what this would do for our people. Not just the parks and recreations, but I'm talking about changing a system. I'm talking about the beginning of us dismantling this white supreme system that have far too long not just impacted black people, but even white women. and other people in this country, where it says that only a white man can have the power to determine who gets what and how it gets distributed. Jesus took one fish and a little loaf of bread and a little piece of bread and fed the multitude. Jesus was a man who believed that we would love our neighbors as if we love ourselves, but not only that, but that we would take care of one another. And that is not happening on today. We are not being represented the way that we should be. And so I would make that call to all of you, and even to the Mayor President. Our history may not be great, but I believe that anybody has the ability to change. I believe that the heart of man can be changed by God. So even on this day, I hope that the Holy Ghost would arrest you every single night. I hope that you can't get any sleep at all, that God would convict your spirit in order to do what is right. And so to that, I will end by singing the spiritual that keeps my people encouraged and that keeps me encouraged at night. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, my Lordy, hold on. The only thing we done wrong, we stayed in the wilderness a day too long. So keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, my Lordy, hold on. But one thing we done right is today we decided to fight. So keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, my Lordy, hold on. Hold on, my Lordy, hold on. Thank you.
Jennifer Bernard. And he will be followed by Marcia Dorsey.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I guess I'm going to be short in a way. I would just like to let you know that the north side as well as the south side pays taxes and should receive equal cuts. Other avenues should be looked at, such as closing some of the golf courses on the south side, spending less funds on the horse farm to become a south side park, financial reduction of pet projects and other financial, municipal, and rural expenditures. In regards to administration, it is my understanding that the Mayor President recommend items for consideration. However, it is your responsibility as council members to pass or reject recommendations for the good of their voters in your respectful districts and community on a whole. In regards to laying off 37 civil service employees.
Sir, keep it to the ordinance, please. Bring it back to city-only funding.
Well,
Not just closing the parks, but bring it back.
Let me just say I agree with it. And in conclusion,
there we go.
It is my opinion that let me put it this way. In conclusion, I agree with item 2, CO-070-2020. Thank you.
Thank you, baby. Appreciate it.
Next speaker, Marcia Dorsey.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
I've only been to 2 council meetings. I've been to church here. I've been preached at, all kinds of stuff. But this is what I want to say. I agree on the surface with your ordinance because it at least recognizes the fact that your constituents, which we are, have valid issues, okay? I'm in agreement with the gentleman that just left the podium. I'm sorry, not him, but the previous one. This is taxation without representation. When I go to the store, I'm a fashion plate kind of lady. So when I spend my money, I need to know what I'm spending my money on. I need you to understand that I'm just not a citizen. I used to be a project manager in a previous life. My team at AT&T did the telecommunication restoration from when Katrina tore down all the telephone lines, and I am very, very familiar with the process of how you do project management, okay? I'm in agreement with you guys when your suggestion that we as a community need to figure out a way to help support the parks and recreations that we so love. While I was sitting there, I came up with an equation, E to the third power, which stands for education, entrepreneurship, and economics. It's through education that we learn to build our community. And through building our community, the entrepreneurship will help build the business and the finances and the funding that we need to sustain us as a community. And then with that, economics will come. I believe that we need to stop looking for a handout, but maybe a hand up. Maybe we need to get together as a community to come up with ways to fund programs, look for other avenues. I grew up with the National Youth Corps on the East Coast. They have programs in place already that shows you how to run rec centers. We need to have programs in place that help take people off the welfare, teach people trades and different things like that. And while I know that this is not...
Excuse me, keep on, still on that ordinance.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
while I
it has
know
to be
this
on
is
what we're
not
talking
about that
Yeah.
on the surface, but it is underneath. And I do see that. And I need them to see it too.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, baby.
Marja Broussard?
I love how she tied it back.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for the opportunity. I agree with this ordinance, excuse me, 100%. Mr. Nakhan, I would like to know if your city residents are okay with paying the parish bill. Lynette, excuse me, Councilwoman Cox, Councilwoman Hebert, I applaud your efforts. There's a big trust issue. And when our mayor is going to appoint someone who likes a comment that says they're a bunch of nigger lovers to a seat, then you have to understand why we're concerned, okay? We agree with this. I agree with what everyone else said about the money. We need to know where our money is going. And it amazes me slightly that we are paying parish and city parks fees 2020 on a 1961 millage. Is that right? Now, nobody's surprised that this is happening, right? I mean, nobody, right? Okay, that's my comment. I agree with the...
Next speaker is William Teeley. Mr. Teeley, you may begin speaking.
Hello, my name is Will Teeley. I live in City District 2. Councilman Andy Nakhan represents me, so thank you to him and thank you to everyone on the City Council. I would like to raise my voice in support of this ordinance. I encourage the City Council to introduce the ordinance now and to pass it in 2 weeks. Doesn't it make complete sense to everyone that the Lafayette City Council would want to have complete control over their city-only funding to the Parks and Rec Department? I mean, what person could possibly be opposed to that idea? What person doesn't believe the City Council should control city-only millages? This ordinance is brilliant. It furthers the ideals passed by the voters last year. The voters tax millages. Both city residents and parish residents want to hold their officials accountable. To put the issue bluntly, the people want clarity in their government, and this ordinance does exactly that. And if you don't believe me, look no further than the emergency meeting that happened last week that left puzzled faces on both city and parish council members and angry faces on citizens who are ready to speak. Both city and parish council members were confused how the parish of Lafayette could prevent the city of Lafayette from funding City of Lafayette parks with City of Lafayette tax millages. I would argue that after you pass this ordinance, you should pass similar ordinances for any department of LCG who may mix city and parish funding. All that does is muddy the waters and create confusion, and it should be stopped. To use estimated numbers, LCG's Parks and Rec department would be funded about 10% from the parish and 90% from the city. The idea that these two councils should be 50-50 on this issue is laughable. I would also like to address Parish Councilman Kevin Nockan's recent offer to contribute $200,000 to try to help save the 4 Northside Rec Centers. That is a wonderful offer that I appreciate. But don't get confused. The City Council can and should still pass this ordinance here. This ordinance in no way states what the Lafayette City Council will do with Parks and Rec funding. It simply states that it wants sole control over it. You can pass this ordinance and work with Kevin Nockan and the rest of the parish council on trying to save the Northside parks with a combination of city and parish tax revenues. These two issues are not mutually exclusive. You can do both of them. I would like to end with this point. To the 5 city council members who can hear me now, Liz Hebert, Nanette Cook, Pat Lewis, Glenn Lazard, Andy Nockan, this ordinance represents exactly what your constituents voted you in to do, to be a voice for them and to represent their city interests. Please do exactly that. And specifically, to Councilman Andy Nockan, I ask you, as my city council member, will you represent me as your city constituent? Thank you so much for letting me speak. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next speaker, John Milton.
That's quite all right. I'm good. Good evening, everybody. I want to apologize for my tardiness. I've been doing community organizing in St. Martinville since 5 o'clock, so that's the only reason why I'm late. Otherwise, I'd have come here and sat like I did last week. So thank y'all for letting me speak. And to this ordinance, I want to say that I am a resident of the parish territory. I do not live in any incorporated area of this parish. I do work, however, in the city. And like our chairman, I too opposed the division of the city-parish government because I felt that with the small land mass that exists in this parish as compared to all the other 63 parishes of the state, Lafayette was one of the smallest. And considering our configuration in terms of being that hub city with the various parishes around us relying upon us, so goes Lafayette, so goes the rest of the Acadiana area. And I want you to know that as our leaders, you still, even though the people spoke last year, I believe that that was a hasty move and that there was not enough public dialogue. And the configuration that we're having now, where we have a city meeting and a parish city meeting and then a parish meeting, was one of the most awkward situations I've had to experience in city government. And so the notion of individual accountability and other policy decisions like running a government like a business, I say that those who want the government to be a business, just leave the government and go have a business. But this is a government where the collect of the people come together. The government is designed to create safety nets for people. The government is designed to provide services to the people. It's not designed to see how much money you can make. And so I believe that this ordinance is a step in the way that we have to go if we're going to have a separated city-parish government. And I am not for the city versus the parish. I'm for the city and the parish, and I will work toward making the city as prosperous as possible, as well as the parish. But you are being the pinnacle of leadership of our community, and I consider all of the great works of those who sat in these seats before you. I've considered, I remember when we consolidated the government, and I was looking forward to when the other smaller municipalities would have thrown their hat in and we could prepare ourselves for the boom town that Lafayette is set and primed for. But I believe that we've taken some severe steps backwards. But I'm saying to you as our leaders, it's not too late to study the course that we're on. And separating and bifurcating and looking out for your own self-interest is crazy in a time like this. And so it shouldn't be about this. The question is going to be, for every city that has a recreation center, oh, only they can go there, and only that. And what you're going to end up with is sundown towns. When the sun goes down, you got to get out of here. There's a book called Sundown Towns. Y'all should read it. It's about a time when black people have to get out of certain towns. You can go work there, but you got to go. When we begin to bifurcate and separate our community like this, we're going to go back to the notion of segregation. And with the policies, you're going to have to set laws to try to codify what it is that we're actually doing. And if we're going to abandon the notion and the movement of the generation before us, the 60s, of moving toward integration and that great unity of a nation that we're supposed to be, if we're going to move from it, I'm glad to say, let's declare it and let it be. So that those who have to do for self will do for self. And so I support this only because we have no choice. But I want you to know, and I just rise to my feet to say to you as leaders, continue the dialogue about what's truly best for Lafayette. Mm-hmm. And you know, you get our chamber call itself One Acadiana. What a major shift, boom. Now it's like separate, bifurcate, separate, divide, fight, this side, this side. And I am saying to you, think long and hard, and whenever you have workshop and praying, that you realize that this is only the beginning of something that could be worse that we don't really want.
Final speaker, Jared Eubanks. Mr. Eubanks, you may begin speaking.
Yes, my name is Jared Eubanks. I'm a member of City Council District 2. I want to thank the council and everyone speaking here tonight for their time and energy. I'm speaking tonight in strong support of this ordinance. I want to give a special thanks to our authors, Councilmember Cook and Councilmember Hebert. Change always takes courage, and that is definitely no less true in this situation. I think the courage to make real change, though, is why everyone on this council was elected. This council was elected after a resounding yes vote for change within the city during the Fix the Charter vote. Constituents wanted to see their elected officials more directly represent them and the needs specifically of the city. This is a solid step in doing so, and maybe the first highly visible one. The council represents city taxpayers and how they want to see their tax dollars spent. I resent how frequently the administration has been using the word subsidy. Monies are collected to the City Council General Fund as voted by the citizens of the city, and we expect our City Council to use them as they see best for the city and their constituents. Allocating tax dollars from the General Fund is not subsidizing. It is putting our community's priorities into practice. Speaking of priorities, I know that you've heard from people far more eloquent and far closer to the subject matter than I. Between the last regular council meeting that went until 3 a.m., the special council meeting where unfortunately so many constituents did not have a chance to be heard, President Miller's last town hall where working to maintain control. Look no further than last week when the City Council could not even have public discussion regarding the continuing operation of these facilities. They were stonewalled by the Parish Council. Earlier tonight, the Parish Council gave control of a parish park to Broussard in a joint governance agreement. Why are they now reluctant to allow the City of Lafayette to control the parks it pays for? I don't want this to seem like I doubt Councilmember Kevin Knockhand's intentions. I think he's a strong proponent of our park system and a great advocate for many. He has my support if he wants to be part of the conversation. He can always be invited by the City Council to speak, and failing that, I'm sure he's welcome to fill out a blue card. However, this doesn't mean that the Parish Council should have control over city tax dollars. That's the crux of why we now have two councils. Don't disregard the people's will. I ask that you hear the voices of your constituents and maintain your resolve to introduce and ultimately, in whatever form, pass this ordinance. Lastly, I think it's inappropriate for Parish President Guillory to say these centers are going to stay open when the most he's presented is an RFP that frankly relies on hopes and dreams. Thank you guys and have a good night.
Thank you. No other speakers, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Nakane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And sitting back and listening, and I can understand there's a lot of anger and confusion, but number one, I never said that I don't want the city managing its own dollars. Number two, the mayor president never said the rec centers were closing. And number three, this money, no, he said he's keeping them open. Number three, this, ma'am, if you don't mind, I have
There's
the
no
floor.
confrontation now. Hold on, let Mr. Nakane speak.
And number three, this ordinance has nothing to do with those rec centers. And I agree with the fact that the city needs to be in control of its dollars. But we have a problem here. This tax is based on, goes back to 1961. It has nothing to do with what we're doing here today. This is set up from 50 years ago. What needs to be done is this needs to be a parish-wide tax. It can't be just a city-only tax to solve the problem. That's the logical solution. But will we ever reach that point? I don't know. And that's an issue, because will we get the parish to vote for this? Will that ever happen? So taking away these dollars, I can see that, and managing the city funds for city use. I see no problem with that. But number three, or I should say number four now at this point, we have possible illegalities with this ordinance. That's already been stated. So there's not clarity to this ordinance yet. Mr. Escott has stated that he needs to research this some more because he didn't have enough time to go through it. So I can see moving this introductory forward, but I don't agree with the principle behind it because there's a lot more underlying to it. I think we need to give Mayor President Guillory a chance to satisfy the issues that we have moving forward. He's been looking into these situations. The Parish Council, if you look back at the few past budgets, and I believe Ms. Toops could verify this past year alone, they put in $370,000 into the budget for the Parks and Recreation. That comes out of the Parish General Fund. Part of the problem with the parish is they keep shrinking. Anytime anything develops, that part of that parish is poured into a city somewhere. So that tax base, which goes into the general fund, the sales dollars, is depleted constantly. There's no parish millage for parks. That's a property tax. That's city only. This tax should be made parish-wide. But can it ever happen? I don't know that the parish would ever agree to that. You think people in Youngsville would vote for a tax on property to pay for parks? I just don't see that happening. So we're in a conundrum right here. What do we do? Okay, do we just totally turn our backs on these parks, which are parks only? There's no buildings there. There's no operation and maintenance. We cut grass. We maintain fences. Most of the time, the parents that are there dealing with the baseball players and the kids there, which they do respect those parks, are there with the rakes, with the lime doing the fields. They're over there taking care of the concession stands, building them. I know a contractor who put weeks and weeks and weeks of time into building a concession stand in Scott, maintained by the parents, painted by the parents. So this is not just a city-only problem. It is a parish-wide problem. And maintaining the city dollars is important. So everybody here needs to listen to what this man is trying to do, because I think he's in the right path.
Okay, right, hold on. Okay, let's call for the vote. Let's go. We calling for the vote. No, let's call
District
for the
4?
vote, please.
Ma'am, you don't have the floor.
Let's call for the vote, please.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
The motion to introduce is approved.
Okay, thank you. This ordinance will be on the August 18th City Council meeting agenda for final adoption. Adjourn City Council special meeting.